to another episode of Drafters TV. I'm Ben Hauver, and today I'm going to be exploring another pair of wide receivers from the same team. Last week I broke down why, contrary to popular belief, I think Brandon Cooks is a better fantasy pick than Will Fuller for 2020. You can watch that video here. And this week I'm going to compare two wide receivers from the Cincinnati Bengals, two wide receivers who are going within 5 picks of one another. Yes, AJ Green and Tyler Boyd. At different points in this offseason, I've gone back and forth on which guy I prefer. I think I finally come down on my final answer, an answer that I'm going to impart on you, the people, very shortly. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video for details on yet another giveaway for a free ticket into Drafters Best Ball Championship, a $50K guaranteed prize pool best ball tournament on Drafters, 10K to first. I'll be announcing the winner to last week's giveaway and providing details for next week at the end of this video. Now, AJ Green and Tyler Boyd. This is a difficult question for me, and I think a lot of other people too. It's not unusual to see Green go ahead of Boyd in drafts. It's not unusual to see Boyd go ahead of Green in drafts. I think the fantasy community overall is pretty split on this and confused on how to attack this situation. Let's start with AJ Green, going at pick 69.4 on Drafters as the wide receiver 29. The question we have to ask ourselves when taking him as a wide receiver 3 is, can he beat this draft price and can he stay healthy for a full season? AJ Green missed 7 games in 2018. He missed the entire season last year. We haven't seen AJ Green be AJ Green since 2017 when he posted a 75 catch season for 1,078 yards and 8 touchdowns. Now he's 32 years old and getting ready to play in a scheme that he's never played in with a quarterback he's never caught passes from. I found this stat to be interesting as well. This per Rich Rebar on Twitter. Since 2001, there have been 75 different first-year quarterbacks that started 5 or more games as rookies. Just 7 wide receivers have produced top 12 scoring seasons, wide receiver 1 numbers attached to those passers. 22 wide receivers have had top 24 seasons. AJ Green is a Hall of Fame talent, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him just straight talent his way into beating those odds and beating his ADP to produce as a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. Joe Burrow is also not exactly what you would call an average rookie quarterback who's, just going to come in and start for a handful of games, maybe half the season. He's incredibly polished. Some people say he's the best prospect since Andrew Luck, and he's coming in day 1 ready to start 16 games barring injury, of course. Even with that being said, though, it's hard to ignore the big flashing lights in my brain saying AJ Green is 32 years old and he's coming off of 23 missed games over the last 2 seasons. For a while, I was just throwing caution to the wind and targeting AJ Green. In the interest of transparency, because of those early offseason drafts, I've actually got a higher stake in Green than I do in Boyd. I have 14% exposure to AJ Green in drafters leagues and only 10% to Boyd. That being said, right now, I would be lying if I didn't say that I preferred Boyd to Green straight up in fantasy right now. Tyler Boyd is going exactly 5 picks later than AJ Green according to Drafters ADP. He's going at pick 74.4 as the wide receiver 33. I think there is a valid concern when it comes to Tyler Boyd, and that is that he saw a much larger share of his team's targets last year than he's going to see in this coming year. AJ Green didn't play a snap in 2019 like we've already talked about. John Ross missed 8 games last year. Auden Tate was the only body on the perimeter for long stretches of the season last year, and if we're being honest, Auden Tate is a player better suited for the depth role that he's in now rather than being the starting X for an NFL team. Tyler Boyd was the only consistently quality wide receiver available for the Bengals last year. With AJ Green set to return, T. Higgins acquired with the 33rd overall pick in the draft, and John Ross still here playing a role, I don't see how the number of targets aren't coming down for Tyler Boyd. 148 targets last year, and I think that number could be a lot closer to the 108 targets that he saw in 2018. The story doesn't end there, though. Boyd had the worst catch percentage of his career last year, only turning 60.8% of his targets into receptions. In 2018, that number was all the way up to 70.4%. I think it's fair to assume that part of the reason his efficiency dipped so low was due to the inconsistent quarterback play. Enter Joe Burrow. God willing, we'll never have to watch Ryan Finley throw another pass Tyler Boyd's way ever again. So while the number of targets are undoubtedly coming down, the quality of targets are going up. Boyd saw exactly 40 less targets in 2018 than he saw last year and only had 18 less receiving yards in 2 less games, I might add. Another plus for Boyd is that he's really the only slot receiver the Bengals have. Green, Higgins, and Ross, even Tate, are all primarily going to be running routes on the outside. Boyd should feast in the slot. I'll be honest, I haven't always had the best relationship or results with Tyler Boyd. This is a clip from last year when I was reviewing a lineup I had in DFS, coming off of an extremely disappointing Tyler Boyd performance. Roll the tape. Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd. You know, it's a little bit funny because a lot of people made quite a bit about Tyler Lockett being a virgin this week. You know, that came out, you know, for religious reasons. He's waiting for marriage to you know, partake in sex. You know, I kind of wish that Tyler Boyd would follow that mantra as well. But Boyd, oh no, he is no virgin, and I know that well because he real good this week, real good. But hey, I'm not tilting. I'm not tilting. Nothing makes you come across as more tilted than muttering under your breath, "I'm not tilted." But in fairness, I'm not going to hold any of that against Tyler Boyd. Maybe coming to this conclusion was more difficult to me than it should have been. AJ Green is one of those players that I've always had an affinity for. Every time he takes the field, he's a highlight reel waiting to happen. My respect for him has been solidified ever since I saw him beat the brakes off of Jalen Ramsey mid-game. I think that there are ways that fantasy owners could convince themselves that AJ Green is primed for a bounce back. Maybe he is. But sometimes surface level analysis will actually provide you with the right answer to an easy question. AJ Green is 32 years old and he's been battling injuries for 2 years in a row now. The Bengals have seemingly started to look towards the future when they drafted T. Higgins, and they opted to tag Green rather than to extend him, despite his quotes to the media saying that he would like to retire as a Bengal. I'm not sure if the Bengals feel the same way about him, although they probably should, considering he is one of the biggest stars they've had attached to their franchise in my lifetime. Meanwhile, Tyler Boyd has shown a steady improvement just about every single year he's been in the league. The Bengals just extended him last offseason. He's part of their future, and he's been the most consistent player on the Bengals offense for 2 years running. In my opinion, Boyd is the wide receiver to own for the Cincinnati Bengals, especially when you consider that you can get him a few picks later than AJ Green in drafts. But what do you think? If you want to be entered into a free giveaway for a chance to win a ticket to Drafters Best Ball Championship, all you need to do is subscribe to this channel and comment below with your thoughts on AJ Green versus Tyler Boyd. Leave your Drafters username in the comments so we know where to credit the ticket. I'll be announcing the winner 1 week from today, next Friday. Before I get out of here, of course, I have to announce the winner of last week's giveaway. This time, I don't even need a randomizer because disappointingly, there was only one commenter. However, FF Bowler 300, who, if I'm not mistaken, won last week's giveaway as well, is going to get yet another free ticket to the Drafters Best Ball Championship. He commented on last week's video agreeing with my take that Brandon Cooks is the wide receiver to own in Houston, saying that he is cheaper and honestly has more upside than Fuller. Completely agree with you, FF Bowler 300, and congrats on the back-to-back wins in the giveaway. That's going to be it for this week's video. I'll be back with another video soon, so stay tuned and thank you for watching.